My stepsister spread rumors everywhere that I bullied her, forcing me to drop out of school. My stepmother acted nice but tried to manipulate me and turn my mom against me. In the end, I was raped by people they arranged. My mom ran around trying to seek justice for me, but died in a car accident on a snowy night. Reborn back to the first day of school, I found my stepsister in an empty bathroom, cutting up her princess dress with scissors. You did this, you know? I shoved her head into the toilet. I've killed before, served 2 years in prison. This is what I did, got it? First day of school, empty bathroom, Christina was humming a tune, cutting up her princess dress with scissors. Do you know why this dress looks like this? Because you were jealous and tore it apart. Christina is my stepsister. We're almost the same age, just a few months apart. But she dressed like a porcelain doll and I was fat and ugly. When I was 5, Dad divorced Mom, and this illegitimate daughter took my place. We ended up at the same high school. I didn't plan to do this to you, she said, but you showed up and annoyed me. She smirked. If I cry to the teacher and say you bullied me in the bathroom, do you think she'd expel you? You sure there's no one around? I asked. Of course, Christina chuckled. No one will back you up. Great, I said, grabbing her by the neck and dragging her into a stall, shoving her head into the sink. In my past life, thanks to her and her mom, I desperately learned self-defense to chase away my fear. Back here, I found out that this demon had a neck that broke easily. Controlling her was a breeze. Christina screamed and struggled. I lifted her up. How's the toilet water taste? Are you insane? Didn't you say I bullied you? Cutting a dress is nothing, eat shit, I said, shoving her head back in. In the past life, she spread rumors, ruining my reputation, leaving me with no friends, then openly bullied me. Not only did she bully me, she framed it as if she were the victim. This time, I planned to do everything she did to me, right back at her. Christina ran out crying. Soon, I was called to the office. The teacher asked me, Jenny, did you do this? I nodded firmly, eyes red. The teacher was startled by my straightforwardness. Christina interjected, crying, we're stepsisters, and she's jealous of my dress. She hit me and shoved me into the toilet. I lowered my head. She has dresses and Dad picks her up. The teacher understood our family dynamics. I'll call your parents. Mom and Dad arrived quickly. Dad slapped me right away. Is this how you treat Christina? Why are you hitting her? Mom cried, hugging me. Look at what your daughter did. Calm down, let's talk. Stepmom Susan gently calmed Dad. She looked well-kept and elegant, making Mom seem weathered and unreasonable. I didn't mean to. Christina said I was fat and ugly, that's why Dad didn't want me or Mom. I thought if I wore the dress, I'd be pretty too, I just wanted to borrow it. I didn't know it would tear, or that Christina would fall in the toilet. I'm sorry. Dad faltered, looking away. Christina screamed, you're lying. You pushed me in. Christina also said that unkempt women deserve to have their men stolen. I'll end up like Mom. I don't want to be like you, Mom, I cried. Look at Auntie, she's so well kept by Dad, while you carry bricks to support me. Mom's anger blazed. You won't be unloved. I want you. The teacher said, your family has issues, let's call it off this time. Don't let your parents' conflicts affect you. Teacher, she hit me. How can this be called off? Christina objected, I want her expelled. I don't want to see her at school. I instantly knelt down, banging my head on the floor. Sorry, Christina. I didn't mean it, forgive me this time. My mom works hard to send me to school, I can't drop out. Please. The teacher hurried to lift me. With teary eyes, she comforted my crying mother. Jenny won't drop out. I'll apply for a subsidy, her tuition will be free. Stepmom, not wanting to lose face, reached for my hand. Jenny, I'm sorry. Christina shouldn't have said those things. Auntie will buy you dresses. Christina ran out crying, in disbelief. I wiped my tears and smiled. Really? Thanks, Auntie. Stepmom Susan took me shopping for clothes. "See all these snacks?" she said, showing off a bag of food. "We shop like this every week." As a 15-year-old, would have drooled and envied her, hoping she'd throw me a bone. She used small favors and pretend kindness to lure me away from Mom, into her home. Then she ruined my life. "In this life," I asked, "why didn't you ever buy me any?" Stepmom paused. "I'm Dad's daughter too," he wouldn't ignore me. "Christina said you told Dad not to care about me. Is that true?" Stepmom forced a smile. "Of course not, she's lying." "You're so nice," I said, hugging her waist. Stepmom patted my head. "Look at this terrifying woman." To save face, she wouldn't care about her bullied daughter, just to appear as the perfect stepmother. She had to be prettier than Mom, more generous than Mom, more favored by her daughter than Mom, so she, the mistress, could replace my mom righteously. That evening, I wore my new clothes and carried some food back home. My mom was stunned. "So much food? Where did it come from? Did they buy it for you?" I peeled a piece of chocolate and popped it into her mouth. "We'll have this every week. This time, I won't let myself be tempted by my stepmother and let my mom be abandoned again, dying in a snowy night trying to help me. I was going to steal money from that cheating couple to support her." Christina's first day of school, she ran around in a dirty dress, becoming a laughingstock. Everyone knew she was the daughter of a mistress. She didn't become a campus celebrity this time. This made her meet some delinquents outside of school earlier. In my past life, she and her delinquent boyfriend used to beat me every day, take my money, and even left a scar on my face. I saw them whispering while looking at me, and I knew that day was not far away. I told a butcher I knew well, "Uncle, we have a school project. I want to experience setting up a meat stall with you for a day. Your teacher allows you to do your school project here?" The teacher asked us to find our dream job. I lowered my eyes. "You know my family's situation. Christina always forces me to drop out. If I can set up a meat stall, at least my mom won't go hungry." The butcher sighed. "Come on then." The next day, as soon as I left the school, the delinquents followed me. I quickly walked to the butcher's stall, put on an apron, and picked up a butcher knife. The meat stalls lined the street, selling the freshest beef. The smell of blood was strong. A huge cow head, still with open eyes, lay at my feet. My leather apron was soaked in blood, glistening. I sliced through the meat, splattering blood onto my face. All around me, on the cutting board and in my hands, was fresh, still jumping meat. I stared intently at the delinquent's knife after knife. I finally chopped the twitching muscles into mince. The delinquents scattered in fear. I never saw them again. Not only did they run away, but Christina also started avoiding me. One day after school, I pulled her into the equipment room at the end of the hallway. "Why are you avoiding me? Weren't you planning to have people beat me up?" Christina screamed, and I slapped her. "Shut up." She cried, "If you dare touch me, Dad will send you to jail." I had actually been to jail for 2 years, only recently released. I grabbed her by the hair, slamming her head into the basketball hoop. Blood gushed from her face, her skin torn. When she healed, a cross-shaped scar would mark her face. I knew this very well. Because in my past life, I got that permanent mark in this very room, my personal torture chamber. I became uglier, more inferior, more solitary, and almost died of depression. I knew all this. So now, it's your turn to try it. Watching her scream and run out, I raised my arm and slammed it down onto a barbell. Hard this time, it got serious. Our family of 5 gathered again, but this time in the principal's office. Christina's face was ruined, and I was going to make sure your daughter got a taste of disfigurement too. Dad raised his fist towards my mom. Stepmother Susan didn't stop him this time, crying silently. At this moment, accompanied by the school nurse, I walked into the principal's office, pale-faced. My left eye was swollen, and my arm was in a sling. Dad lowered his fist. Stepmother was shocked seeing me, and Mom rushed over. "Who hit you? Tell me, don't be afraid, Mom is here." I pointed at Christina. She screamed, she hit me. Mom. She hit me, not the other way around. After cleaning the classroom and leaving, she dragged me into the equipment room. I averted my eyes, she sat on me and slapped me. I couldn't take it anymore, I pushed her, and she hit the hoop. She got hurt and then stepped on my hand. Christina was furious, rushing to hit me. You bullied me. How dare you lie? How dare you lie? No fighting. Teacher Jessica stopped her. The school nurse shielded me, furious. I've been a school nurse for 20 years, never seen such a vicious little girl, stepping on someone's hand until it's broken. Mom burst into tears, Dad and stepmother were silent. Why aren't you saying anything? You believe her, don't you? Christina screamed manically, pointing at them. She killed someone. She went to prison. She could do this. She's a murderer. How dare you say that about Jenny? Mom was stunned. Christina not only slandered me all over school, but she also tried to get people to beat me up. I precisely named the delinquents. They were quickly brought over. Yes, Christina always asked us to mess her up. The delinquents, sensing trouble, quickly distanced themselves. But we thought it was wrong, so we didn't do it. I said fearfully, you followed me that day, at the meat stall, a lot of people saw. The butcher testified, yes, the day Jenny worked at my stall, these delinquents stood across the street for about half an hour later, I escorted her home. The hooligan choked and said, we didn't do anything anyway. I whispered through my tears, Christina said when she slapped me that today was nothing. She said it'll be worse when they come next time. She's lying, she's lying. She's the murderer. She has killed someone and been to jail. I'm the one who needs protection. Enough. The teacher stood up from behind the computer. Jenny has never committed a crime. Christina, you are such a habitual liar. The butcher uncle pointed at my dad. Even if you remarry, don't be so biased. Everyone outside the school has heard about it. Jenny isn't your daughter? How can you treat her like this as a father? The principal and teachers verified the rumors about me and held a short meeting. They finally told my dad, your family situation is too unusual. We don't recommend Christina continue studying here. If you insist, she might face disciplinary action. Yes, if she doesn't leave, she'll get a record for bullying other students. Christina cried and fainted, while my dad signed the transfer papers. My stepmother came over and hugged me in front of my mom. Jenny, Christina didn't mean it. It's just you haven't been home for many years, and the relationship has grown distant. You should visit your dad and her more often. Okay, Auntie. I hugged her waist. Her hands were cold. Mine were, too. My classmates heard about my situation and felt sorry for me. When I broke my arm, some even took care of me. Sorry, we heard a lot of bad things about you before. We thought you really killed someone. It's okay, I said. On the day Christina transferred schools, I posted all her heroic deeds on her new school's forum using an anonymous account. That's how the rumors about me had spread before. I believe Christina is ruined now. I took out an old photo of a happy family of 3, cut out the princess-like girl in the middle, and looked at my dad and stepmother. You two are next. My stepmother invited me to live at her house, but my mom disagreed. I said, Dad and Auntie's house, the villa they live in now, you decorated it. You held me and took me to the construction site every day, watching it go from bare bones to furnished. We got kicked out before we ever lived there, not even for a single day. Mom, I want to see the house. Mom hesitated, and with teary eyes, she let me go. That day, I stepped into the home I had never been to before. It was indeed luxurious. My stepmother settled me into Christina's room. Christina lives at school and only comes home once a week. You can stay here. These are her dresses. She opened the wardrobe to show me all the beautiful clothes I never had. Then she cleared a small corner to put my old school uniform. Remember, your stuff goes here. Don't touch anything else. You wouldn't fit into her clothes anyway. She took me to the bathroom. These are her skincare products. She put away the expensive bottles and jars into a lit cabinet and smiled at my acne-covered face in the mirror. Your toothpaste and cup can go here. My stepmother let me see the lavish lifestyle but also made me aware of my own poverty, humiliating me while feeding my desire. After showing me around, she left the room wearing a black silk nightgown and casually dropped her wallet in the drawer in front of me. If you want pocket money, just take it yourself. In my past life, I believed her words and occasionally took $5 or $10 from her wallet. Then she told my dad that money kept disappearing. Daddy set a trap and caught me red-handed. I was taking $50 for class funds. Dad grabbed my head and slammed it against the wall, calling me a thief. I told him it was stepmother who told me to take it. She feigned surprise and said, I never said that. Jenny, even if you want pocket money, $15,000 is too much for a student. Mom came over, knelt, and compensated them with 5 months of her salary. She had planned to buy an electric bike but never did. Remembering this, I went forward, took several $100 bills from my stepmother's wallet and stuffed them into my pocket. My mom deserves a new bike. A few days later, Christina came home. At the dinner table, my stepmother said, my money is missing. It must be her. Christina pointed at me. You weren't even home. How would you know? My stepmother asked. I wasn't here, but when I was, no money ever went missing. Enough. Dad looked annoyed. Christina slammed her spoon. She moved into my room, sleeps in my bed, and I can't say anything? Jenny, you're a thief. She ran off crying, while my stepmother chased after her. Dad then turned to me and said, if I catch you stealing money again, I'll break your legs. My hand isn't even healed yet. The money wasn't taken by me. Dad frowned. The money always goes missing on weekends, I reminded him. Dad glanced towards Christina's direction. I went to my stepmother and complained. Christina falsely accused me of stealing money and made me sleep on the floor. I never said that. Christina yelled, then snapped out of it and added, now that I'm back, you should sleep on the floor, right? It's just common sense. My mom wouldn't make me sleep on the floor, I retorted. Christina, Jenny just got here. Let her sleep in your room for a few days, okay? My stepmother intervened. Christina, seething with rage, pushed her. You always take her side. And then stormed into her room. I followed, boldly jumped onto her bed, and took out my newly bought MP4 player. Christina was shocked. How do you have that? Dad and Mom bought it for me. Oops, I said. I had forgotten. Mom told me not to tell you. If you somehow found out, I was supposed to say Mom bought it for me. Christina almost jumped out of bed to confront me but stopped. They didn't get one for you because they didn't want it to affect your studies. Don't overthink it. Christina clenched her fists. I applied one of her expensive face masks and put on my headphones to read a novel. A few days later, I casually mentioned on her school forum, new girl Christina seems quite well off. Everyone chimed in, and someone posted a picture of her holding an MP4 player. I showed the photo to Dad and cried, how does Christina have so much allowance to buy an MP4 when I don't get any money? Dad's face turned stormy. By the next weekend, a big incident occurred at home. Christina got caught stealing money by Dad. Dad beat her severely. Didn't we give you money? Why are you stealing at such a young age? Christina cried, you took Jenny in and let her use my room and my things. She has an MP4, and I don't. Why can't I take some money? What MP4? I put down my old backpack and wiped sweat with my uniform sleeve. I thought only your school had those. I've never even seen one. Stepmom gave me a cold look. Maybe she does have one. She searched my bag and room but found nothing. I shook my head regretfully. Maybe Christina saw her classmates with those and wanted to be like them. She's lying. Christina cried. Dad slapped Christina hard. You're the one lying. I asked stepmom, Mom, how much money are you missing? Was it just enough for an MP4? Dad beat Christina. Speak. I bought sneakers and an MP4, nothing else. Stepmom screamed, I'm missing over 10,000. Christina quickly said, yes. Jenny must have stolen it too. You scold me, but what about her? I sighed and showed the school forum post. You're new and need to fit in, so you spend a lot of money on treats. Mom and Dad understand this. But what I don't get is why you're always targeting me. Do you need me to have a terrible time? Dad hit her even harder. You spend money to fit in but blame Jenny at home. What did your mom teach you? Christina had never been so wronged. Suddenly she foamed at the mouth and hit her head hard on the floor. Nobody believes me. You all only believe her. You'll only be happy if I die. She ran to the window. Dad panicked and rushed her to the hospital. She was diagnosed with severe depression and had to take a break from school for treatment. The school's environment wasn't great. Students were mostly wealthy and often bullied others. They knew she had money, so they always pressured her to treat them. If she didn't, they would ostracize her. So, she stole more and more. The doctor explained. Mom, Christina doesn't have to go to school now. She'll probably get better quickly. I affectionately held my stepmom's arm. Christina saw and angrily pounded on the door. Stepmom pushed me away. I didn't mind and headed home with my new electric bike. Where did this come from? Mom loved it. I bought it with my allowance. How could you use his money? Mom fumed. I don't want his money. It's dirty. It's the child support he owed for 10 years. Mom thought about it and then went to clean the new bike. Stepmom wasn't letting me off. Soon enough, she called me over again. Your grades aren't great, so I called Christina's uncle to tutor you. He's a graduate from a prestigious college. Study hard and get into a good university so your mom can be at ease. Seeing Sam made me shake all over. In my past life, I was the one accused of stealing and fell into depression. Stepmom had her brother tutor me then too. He raped me and threatened to plaster my nudes everywhere if I spoke out. I was only 15, terrified, and submitted to his abuse. He used me again and again. Until Mom saw my injuries and took me to the police. But we had no evidence. She's so ugly. My brother graduated from a top school. Why would he assault her? Stepmom scoffed. She hangs out with delinquent kids and might have gotten hurt playing around. Sam got off scot-free. Christina spread the story, saying I seduced her uncle and tried to frame him. I nearly jumped off a building. Dad sent me to a mental hospital. Stepmom bribed the doctors and specifically instructed, she's delusional. Cure her completely. I was locked away for 7 years. I didn't even see my mom before she passed away. I snapped back to reality, staring at Sam, teeth chattering. This time, I won't run. After school, I told Dad. Uncle looks at me strangely. He shrugged, you're overthinking. I told Stepmom, Auntie, Uncle often touches my hand. She knew Sam's nature but calmly said, Jenny, you've just learned about sex ed. You're too sensitive. I told my friends, Christina's uncle tutors me, but he peeked at me once while I was using the toilet. They were outraged. Let's go report him. I covered my face and cried. But I'm doing better in school now, thanks to him. I still need his help. He's harassing you. Auntie said I was too sensitive and might be wrong. I shook my head in agony. I'm just confiding in you. Don't tell anyone. If Mom knew I damaged my reputation, she'd cry. Our classmate Susan lives in the same neighborhood as my dad and me. She thought for a moment and said, Are you taking extra classes every weekend? How about this, I'll come by and hang out with you every now and then. If he sees other people around, he won't dare do anything to you. I nodded. How about I call you first? Can you walk home with me after school? Susan looked surprised. Is he following you? I don't know. I always feel like he's watching me from behind. Susan saw the utility knife on my desk, grabbed it, and put it in my hand. "Keep it with you, hide it well. Even if he's not, it's always good to have something for self-defense." I nodded and obediently put the knife in my pocket. Sam wasn't following or spying on me, but he was getting handsy more and more often. One day, he came in with a black briefcase. I clearly remembered, the first time he raped me, that bag was thrown on the floor in front of me. I secretly called Susan. "Susan, he's coming over soon. I'm really scared, could you come by later?" Then, I followed Sam into the room that terrified me, knowing what would happen next. My heart was racing, and my head was throbbing like pins and needles. Sam asked me to sit down and started tutoring me. As he was talking, he pulled me into his arms. I started screaming and struggling. Sam said, "There's no one here, and even if you say something, no one will believe you. But if you tell anyone, I don't mind, I'll just let your mom know that you're a slut who gets laid." His hands reached into my shirt and pushed me onto the bed. Everything was just like the countless nightmares I had before. When he penetrated me, I felt like I was back to that day when I was 15, with no choice but to endure and scream. Until there was a noise at the door. I grabbed the knife from my pocket and slashed wildly, accidentally cutting Sam's throat. Blood spurted everywhere, covering my face. He clutched his throat, naked from the waist down, and collapsed on top of me. The world went silent as Susan screamed. I knew my nightmare was over. Just like in all my prayers from another life, I ended him myself. The nightmare that haunted me all my life was now just a dead weight on top of me. Outside the police station, I was wrapped in a jacket, trembling beside my mom. Not far away, my stepmother was holding Sam's body, crying her heart out. Susan stayed calm. He was assaulting Jenny. She fought back with a knife, and accidentally cut his throat. She still killed him. "It's murder." My stepmother screamed. Dad stepped forward and slapped her hard, then kicked Sam in the crotch. "You know what kind of person your brother was? You must have known this day would come when you brought him here. You just didn't think Jenny would fight back with a knife. Where'd you get that knife?" The police turned to me. "It's an art class utility knife, everyone has one. We suggested she carry it," Susan said. Sam harassed her and followed her. We felt bad for Jenny and gave her the idea. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Mom cried through tears. I said, and told me to study hard, said if I didn't get into college, Dad wouldn't want me anymore. A family of whores. Dad slapped my stepmother again. She collapsed to the ground, staring blankly at Sam's body. He was dead, the sheets still tented. Finally, I was examined, a torn and bleeding lower body, with Sam's DNA in the semen inside me. With Dad and Susan's testimony, I was cleared as acting in self-defense. For the sake of my reputation, the police sealed the case, and Susan swore never to mention it. Dad gave Mom a lot of money to look after me, hinting that he often argued with his new wife. She's nothing but a money drainer. God knows how much she's stolen over the years for her family, and they even built houses for her dead parents. Now she's blaming Jenny for her brother's death, constantly saying she'll die too, Dad said angrily. One day after school, instead of going home, I went straight to a karaoke bar and booked Floria. "You requested me?" Floria, just a couple of years older than me, had permed hair, wore revealing clothes, and smoked skillfully. I pushed money across the counter. 2 hours, an outing. Floria, seeing a girl by herself, seemed puzzled but agreed and followed me to a motel. "What do you want?" she asked. "I need someone to talk to." I climbed onto a chair, hugging my knees, and told her about Sam raping me and how I killed him. The cigarette fell from Floria's mouth. She eventually lit another one. Men like that, good riddance. Though the police kept my case confidential, word got out at school, surely due to my stepmother stirring things up. She said it was all my fault, that I seduced him. "Do you think it really was my fault?" I asked. Floria's face turned cold, awkwardly comforting me for a while. As evening fell, Dad found me. "You disappeared without a word." Mom was so worried she called me. "Do you have any idea how?" he stopped short, seeing Floria's dark eyes. Floria turned away, uncomfortably adjusting her strap. Who's she? Dad asked. A girl I just met. She's nice to me. I replied. All right. Dad led me downstairs but glanced back at her. Actually, Floria was another one of Dad's mistresses. It was fate they'd meet at a bathhouse. The stepmother, a former mistress herself, shouldn't be naive to think Dad wouldn't cheat again. My stepmother, apparently, once confronted Floria, slapping her. How dare you steal my husband? Floria slapped her back. I'm just working. Why do I care if your man is married or not? If you've got a problem, cut his dick off and keep him tied up. She was the retribution for my stepmother. As Christmas passed, New Year was around the corner. The atmosphere was festive everywhere, but I grew more restless. Last life, December 30th, 10:23 p.m., my mom was riding an electric bike and got hit by a truck driving against traffic. She died. At that time, she was running around collecting evidence about Sam raping me, trying to get me out of the mental hospital while she was alive. I didn't want to suffer in a single-parent family with her. I was jealous of Christina and her family's big villa. I blamed her for not giving me good material conditions and cried that she had no time for me and didn't care about me, neither beautiful nor gentle. But when I suffered, only my mom, even in the last second before her death, thought about saving me. Mom, don't go out at night recently. I hugged her and said, I had a nightmare. Nightmares are all fake. I dreamt you died. Mom immediately moved into a temple to pray for me. Seeing her walk into the temple, knowing she wouldn't leave for 7 days, I breathed a sigh of relief. But then I got a call from the police station. Jenny? This is Officer Eric from the local station. Can I meet you sometime? There are still many doubts about Sam's case. Okay, how about December 30th 10 p.m.? That late? It's New Year's Eve. I hung up, put on lipstick, and headed to the mental hospital. Today was my stepmother's visit to Christina. Her son was killed, daughter went crazy, and she looked much older, no longer dressing neatly. Lately, my dad and she had been fighting so much that he was often not home, leaving her in a bad mood. She looked just like my mom 10 years ago. Seeing me, her eyes immediately showed venom. Where did you get that lipstick? I felt a little panicked. Mom bought it for me. If your mom knew how to dress up, I wouldn't have stolen her man. Tell the truth. Floria gave it to me. You met her? It seemed she already knew about Floria. Floria is a nice person, kind and brave. Dad wants to marry her. She's a hooker. She doesn't have a rapist brother like you do. It's all your fault. She raised her hand to hit me. Dad hates that. It makes the family hostile. He doesn't want a family like this. The stepmother was stunned, eyes filled with extreme resentment. She had been with my dad for 10 years but now became mortal enemies. Where are they meeting? I can't say. She took out her wallet and grabbed a bunch of money, giving it to me. I hesitated. Happy Inn. I then informed Floria. My stepmother knows you're with my dad. What can she do? She's a crazy woman. Last time my dad came over to talk, she rushed in with a knife to kill my mom. Floria cursed. If you see her, run, don't look back. Got it. I handed her a flyer for a fireworks show at the beach. Want to go for New Year's Eve? Floria took the flyer. After keeping your dad company, now I have to babysit you, huh? If you can get dad along, it's been a while since we had New Year's together. Floria sighed, patting my head. Fine. My stepmother never actually tried to kill my mom, but in my past life, I heard she almost stabbed my dad. She caught him in a hotel with Floria, attacked him, almost killed him, but he and Floria subdued her. Then my dad returned to the family. My mom's crying, her making a scene, none of it worked. Turns out, threats work better than self-harm. But why? Why did my dad end up happy with the stepmother? December 30th night. I finished talking with my mom, confirming she was chanting at the temple tonight. I headed to the cafe opposite Happy Inn. Eric sat opposite me, opening his notebook. I reviewed the file. There are some doubts I need to confirm. Christina is your half-sister, right? Yes. Then she bullied you at school, got punished. After transferring, she suddenly went crazy. What are you implying? Sam raped you, you killed him in self-defense. Everyone around you knows he's a beast. Isn't that too much of a coincidence? It's not a coincidence, I told Eric. It's karma. There's no such thing as karma, Eric said. Let me guess. Did you spread rumors about being a victim, driving Christina crazy? And set a trap to kill Sam? Yes, I raped Sam. I forced him to take off his pants and get on me. Eric said, I just think he was seduced and tricked by you. I know you'll think that way. I looked calmly at his face. Eric was a local detective, and in my past life, he handled my case. Then he said they found no evidence, claiming she might be delusional. At that moment, the customers around started whispering, looking at Happy Inn across the street. I saw Floria running out wrapped in a towel, barefoot. I reminded Eric, something's happening across the street. Eric said, focus on yourself. I glued my butt back to the chair. I don't know what evidence you have to support your suspicion. I don't, Eric said. But I'll be watching you. If you do anything, I won't let you get away with it. As soon as he finished, people around us gasped, pointing across. Someone was murdered. Eric turned around, seeing my stepmother covered in blood, panicking as she ran into the street. That night, Floria had invited my dad to watch the fireworks. Dad said, midnight is far off, the night is long, and got a hotel room with her stepmother had been staking out Happy Inn for a while, and soon after, she charged in, knocking on the door. Floria remembered my advice, wrapped in a towel, and ran without looking back. My stepmother not only hated my dad's infidelity but also kept that grudge. His daughter killed his brother and got away with it. This time, no one helped my dad. She stabbed him over a dozen times. My stepmom realized what had happened and panicked. She dropped the knife and ran out into the street. At that moment, I was sitting across from Eric. Eric recognized her as my stepmom and looked at me, shocked. I said calmly, why are you looking at me? You're the cop. Go arrest her. Eric ran after her. When my stepmom saw his uniform, she started sprinting. I looked at the clock on the wall. It was 10:23 a.m. Then, I heard the screeching sound of brakes. At 10:23 a.m. on December 30, 2008, an out-of-control truck sped down road and killed my stepmom. Her body parts were scattered over 100 meters. Officer Eric resigned soon after, unable to bear the guilt of seeing her die in front of him. He blamed himself for her death and could no longer save anyone. I met Floria once and gave her $100,000. I told her, stop being a prostitute. She didn't ask where the money came from or why I was helping her. She just smoked her cigarette and said, my dad's a gambler. Gambling's a disease, it can't be cured. Just go. Floria took the money and disappeared from the city. A few years later, I saw her again on a study abroad program page. She was wearing a lab coat, looking calm and collected, without a hint of her past life. My dad was taken to the hospital, and a few days after my stepmom died, he passed away too. On the day of the funeral, I went to see Christina. I told her, Dad and Mom are dead. After a pause, I added, our dad and your mom are dead. Your mom killed him, and then she got hit by a runaway truck. You're an orphan now. Christina rushed at me, pounding on the door, wanting to tear me apart. I just looked at her. In a past life, it was her mom who delivered that line to me. Being on the other side of the door felt pretty good. The doctors came in to restrain her and gave her a sedative. Now that our parents were gone, Christina and I shared the inheritance. I was in charge of her trust. I told the doctors I would make sure her medical bills were paid on time every month and that she should get the best care available. Do you understand? The doctor nodded. I walked out of the mental hospital, and my mom was outside, waiting with her new electric scooter. I climbed onto the back seat and hugged her waist. "Mom, if I were a demon, would you still love me?" She was startled but then said, "You're not a demon. You are my dearest daughter." Yes, yes, Mom spent her whole life loving May, wouldn't miss it again. I hugged her waist tightly, listening to her laugh and say, "Let's go home."